What if I told you there's a guaranteed way to double your money and 1 in 4 people completely miss it? I'm talking about your 401k match. Roughly 25% of workers don't contribute enough to get their full employer match, which means they're walking away from thousands of dollars in free retirement money every single year. Even if you already have a pension, your 401k match is still one of the best guaranteed returns you'll ever get. And today I'll show you exactly how it works, why it's such a powerful wealth builder, and how to combine it with smart tax strategy to make it even better. Hi everybody, my name's John Lee. I'm a CPA and tax professor, and I love helping people maximize their after-tax cash flows in the most efficient way possible. This is the second video in my Retire Smarter with a Pension series. In the first video, I walked through how to build your baseline plan and gave you free access to the My Financial Independence Plan tool so you could create your own starting point. If you haven't watched that video yet, pause this video and grab your free version. It'll help everything in today's video make a lot more sense. It'll also help you build your own baseline plan. We're talking starts with, in the profile, you'll do everything from Social Security, pension, all of that, but you'll also get your current net worth. Put in your debts, and you build in debt payoff strategies that are amazing. Shows how much money you'll save by paying off debt faster. You'll also put in your annual budget, and you'll see the effect of budgeting on your current retirement and final net worth. And finally, a current tax plan that you'll also see the baseline tax plan, the effects of that. So please go grab that if you haven't yet. In today's video, I'm jumping into the fun part, which is I'm going to start going through all of the strategies we did with this couple in order to get them hundreds of thousands of dollars of extra money, building in extra net worth, I would say. Well, a lot of them are tax strategies. And so the first one is this 401k match. And whether you have a 401k, 403b, 457, or TSP, this often applies. And it did for both of the spouses in this case scenario. What I am about to show you, it's all done in the full version of My Financial Independence Plan. I'm in the process of building this out, so this is what I'm going to show you. You don't have these capabilities in the free version. What I'm doing right now is I'm working to develop this into the best version of software possible to spread more broadly at a good price. But I'm starting with a group of 20 people. So if you want to work one-on-one with me, and this is the cheapest price I'll ever offer, the one-on-one price, but if you want to work with me, it's in that same link in the description. You have the option to grab one of those spots, okay? If you do, I'm going to work with you personally on the things we're doing in my videos where we work through your own plan, do these comparisons, and try to make your plan as efficient as possible. So if you're interested in one of those spots, grab one while they're still there. That price, this is the only time I'm offering it because the goal is to develop it into something that I can spread more broadly without the as much one-on-one consultation. So let's jump into the case study. In this case study, let's go over to our financial independence plan, and I'm going to jump over to the dashboard. This is our starting point, okay? I'm going to refresh charts because I was playing with it a little bit here. The couples, they did awesome, okay? So current net worth 1.8 million. If that's not you, that's okay because these strategies apply to everyone, okay? Like you can use these strategies no matter where you are starting, okay? Right now they have zero tax savings this year. We haven't applied any tax saving yet, but here's their projected retirement net worth. They're close to retirement, 2.2 million, 8.4 for final net worth. That difference is not very common because not everyone has a pension, okay? The combination this couple has of 2 pensions and double Social Security, they're sitting so well for retirees that any of their nest egg that they've built up, most of that will just be there to grow, okay? And that net worth, we're talking, they have HSAs, tax deferred, we're talking almost 800 grand in money that they're not going to have to distribute because everything's covered by the pension, and they're going to be saving a ton more because pension and Social Security covers everything. They're in a great spot, okay? But there's still things we can do that apply to everyone. Let's look at the strategy, this 401k match, and how does this work? Well, let's go set our baseline scenario first. I cleared all scenarios, so I'm going to set baseline again, and this will just lock in our baseline for comparison, okay? So in this projections tab, we're going to be able to do comparisons against this baseline scenario there at 8.3, okay? And wherever you're starting, the same principles are going to apply. So in the first one, we're jumping back over to tax planning because we're going to talk about the best guaranteed ROI you can get, the 401k match. So starting off, this couple, they both have something amazing, which is a 1% guaranteed. This isn't even a match. The employer is just going to throw in 1% no matter what. So without them doing anything, they're already getting an extra $2,300 just being a part of the plan. I don't know if they could have elected out of that, said, okay, I don't want to be in it at all, and I don't want any of the free money, okay, which doesn't make sense, but there's the 1%. Then the husband gets a 4.5%, 100% match. If you have a tiered match, you can use the lower ones. And then the wife gets a 3%. That didn't change the retirement net worth any when we put those in, because you have to actually contribute to get the match. Let's do the contribution. So for husband, we're going to do 401k, and we're going to say, we're going to do this equals his salary, the 114,265, and we're going to multiply that by, we want to get the full match, so we're going to do 4%, 4.5%. So he's going to say, employer, withhold $5,142 from my paycheck. That's going to save me some tax this year. Then they're going to match it 100%. And you can see that down here. So just for the husband, he put in $5,142. His match is that $6,285 because we already had the 1%. So he's getting a 5.5% match. Look at his return, okay? Just contributing to the husbands, they save $1,363 in tax, okay? I love that, okay? Because they're paying $62,000 right now. This couple, you know, when we're talking Roth versus traditional, they're feeling like that's a lot of tax. So we want to decrease our tax, and that's why they're going traditional. We're still going to look at that traditional Roth comparison. So, but the ROI is 233% on that. Let's look at the wife. Do the same thing. Putting it in her 457, we're going to do her salary. I'm going to scroll up. Her salary, 116,287 times the 3%. So between the two, they're saying decrease our paychecks by $8,600, and then that's going to save us $2,288 in tax, and then they get their matches. Okay, what is the effect of this strategy? It only costs them $6,343 to get $19,567. That's 208% return on investment. Okay, guaranteed. These are rules that are built in. You don't have to care about the market or whatever. That's guaranteed. If they do this for 20 years, millions of dollars, okay, and have, I mean, they're not even putting in, I mean, they're getting over double their money on this. So what do I always recommend? Because they're putting it all in tax deferred, okay? I always say, when you're comparing traditional versus Roth, Roth is always going to win if you do traditional and then you don't invest the difference, okay? Because that means you're putting the same amount in traditional and Roth, and if you're not investing the difference in traditional, the balances will grow the same. One's taxed, one isn't. But for traditional to outpace Roth, you need to invest the difference. That difference is built in partially in this model. If your cash reserves are below what you want, like you say, I want 6 months expenses in cash reserves, if they're below that, any extra money you're saving here is going to go to fund those reserves. And then the extra will go and be invested in a brokerage account. To guarantee, if your cash reserves are too low, but to still guarantee that traditional, you're investing the savings, what you need to do is say, okay, I saved $2,288. I'm going to throw it in a brokerage account wherever. I encourage Roth because that's tax-free growth, right? So for the husband's Roth, we'll just put $2,288 there. So they funded traditional. They're diversifying their taxes in retirement, okay? The other thing I want to talk about, because so now they have how much invested? They invested an extra 22 grand, and it cost them 8,600 because now they're taking that savings and investing it, okay? An important aspect of this when you're saying, oh, traditional versus Roth, a lot of these, I'm hearing everyone saying taxes are going to be way higher in retirement and IRMA, and they're throwing out all these words to scare you, say Roth convert and all this. Can I use your mind a little? Let's go to the dashboard, and this is partly because of all the fear mongering and stuff. That's partly why I built this model, okay? So let's look at the tax rates. Lifetime effective tax rates. And there's two lines here that are together because it's baseline and when we're making their projection. Their current effective tax rate, which is including all the taxes they're paying, is 26%. And then the husband retires and it drops to 21, 50. You can see as they're retiring, it's dropping significantly. And then as the pensions are kicking in, and then they're taking Social Security, and then RMDs start. But even with RMDs, you know, people are like, you're going to have these huge RMDs, so scary. Look at these projections. For this couple that have, I mean, they have a good amount of tax-deferred money. They're in the 16, 17% bracket. They jump to 20. That's the widow's tax, right? When people are scary about that, and they're like, oh, when one passes away, you're going to be paying crazy tax. 20%. Okay, how? Let's look at the future planning. You can see all the detail here, and this is what's sometimes hidden in tax software. Is I'm like, I want to see detail of what's going on. In your future planning tab, there's a million columns, I know, but if you learn how it's structured, it's not too bad. Like the first section is just your net worth throughout your whole life in each account. What's in each account based on the projections. Okay. The next section, financial independence thresholds. When are you hitting financial independence? Okay, those projections. The third is your income planning. Okay, so you have work income, and then when does your Social Security kick in? Your pension kicks in, right? Okay, that is the third section. The fourth is cash outflows, your expenses. Does your income cover your expenses? Okay, if it doesn't, if you're in the negative ever, and this couple's always in the positive, but many are in the negative, if income's not covering expenses, that's when you're withdrawing. This account withdrawal section is saying, I have this much in my tax deferred, I'm going to start withdrawing it to make up for that difference. Okay, and finally, this is where are you saving your money this year? Okay, like when you're funding Roth, etc., etc. And finally, tax projections. So we're getting into the taxes, which is kind of long because there's a lot going into tax calculation. But I want to show you the IRMA. Okay, first of all, like people are scared about IRMA and stuff. IRMA does kick in with that widow's penalty, right? But even, I mean, that's an extra 10 grand almost in IRMA. And people are like, whoa, that's a ton. But look at the effective tax rate. It puts you at 20%, okay, versus you're already at 25. So when people are like, you should pay 34% to avoid IRMA later when you're paying it at 20. Why is it so much lower later? Okay, and I kind of harp on this, but it's lower later because the tax brackets are indexed for inflation. So if we go over to the marginal tax brackets, let's say the 22% tax bracket is 96,950 in 2025, 2026 it's even higher, okay? Every year that increases. So this couple, I mean, they can make 150,000 almost as a couple and they're still in the 22%. So that's why these scary RMDs aren't as bad when you're considering, look, the brackets are going up as well. So that's why it's important to project these things, okay? Oh, but what happens when the husband dies? That's when the widow's penalty, right? The widower's penalty. The 22% tax bracket, because of inflation, it's still up to 79,000. So that's why even if the husband passes away, still in that 22%. And there's a few years you're in 12, right? But so that federal tax bracket's still 22%. Okay, so I'm just hoping that relieves some of the fear that's put into people like to do Roth conversions and all these things. Okay, maybe you do want to do Roth conversions if you're one that says tax rates are going, look at our debt, tax rates are going to explode later, okay? And that's why I've added this new option that you can do in here, which is you can just increase the tax rates, okay? So where they're at 22% now, let's just go in, there's 22%, okay? So we're going to jump over to the profile page, and here's where you can say, look, I bet you taxes are going to increase 0 to 4%. 4% is pretty extensive tax rate increases, but you could even do 10%, like you could override 20% if you want. Are they going to do that to retirees? I don't know. In the past, that hasn't been a popular solution, but so tax rate increase year, if we put this at 2030, you can see we were at 8.4 or something, we're down to 7.9, okay? Yeah, tax rates increase, maybe your 500 grand difference for this couple, which are higher. And you can see if we go to future planning, now everything's 4% higher, 26%, okay? So, and starting in 2030, so you pick the year that it starts. But I just look at the dashboard again really quick. Let's refresh charts. Okay, if you get that big increase, I mean 4%, you're still sitting about the same right now, and tax rates went up in 2030, right? So now you're at 1721. You're still lower than you are right now, and then you're even when the spouse passes away. So all of these things are to consider, but to hopefully relieve your mind a little bit. And yeah, it's important to do these projections, okay? And the problem is what's going to happen with tax rates? Who knows? But look at the likelihoods and run scenarios where the tax rates do go up a ton, and you can kind of see this is what would happen if they go up 4% per bracket or whatever. Okay, let's jump back to our projections. So let's lock in projection 1 by not doing that tax rate increase. We're going to take that back out. So projection 1, just so we can do this comparison now, I'm going to show you how cool the comparison aspect of this is. Just by funding the 401k, the tax deferred for 1 year for the spouse, or 4 months for the spouse or husband, and 2.5 years for the wife, you've increased your net worth by 37 grand. Just by saying, put this money in a different spot, pretty much, because that's all they're doing. Let's do Roth now, okay? Because it's that Roth versus traditional comparison, and we like comparing those. So let's jump to the tax strategy. So we're going to delete the Roth IRA contribution, and instead of putting that 5142 in traditional pre-tax, we're going to do post-tax down here, Roth 401k, 5142. Same thing for the wife. Take out that 3489 and put it in Roth, 3489. So you can see 8,418,000. What happened with the current year tax? How much are you saving? You're not saving anything because it's Roth, it's post-tax, so you're just putting it in, but you're getting tax-free growth, okay? Here we have kind of what's the default is you put it in Roth and the employer match goes into traditional, okay? So in that case, I'm just going to run that projection really quick just to show you. You're still $2,000 better off by doing that in the Roth situation. That's at end of life. Over time, in the beginning, you're worse off, right? So like that first year, your total savings is 119 versus 121 if you did traditional, right? And even hitting your financial independence thresholds, you're hitting them earlier in traditional because you potentially owe tax on more of the balance. So even at retirement, you have $3 grand more at retirement, okay? But final net worth, and you'll find that this break even doesn't happen until the year after death for inheritees. So, but that's not a huge difference between traditional and Roth. So it's not going to kill you one way or the other. Depends on the situation, obviously. But yeah, this couple has pretty good income for retirees, and it's not going to kill them. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how it looks. Well, let's add one more thing that's really cool that I've built in here. With that match, what if you want it all in Roth, okay? You can, depends on the employer, but you could say, any of my match, I want 100% of it to go to Roth. Or you could do 50, you could build any of those in here. So let's do 100% Roth. What did that do? Well, looking at our current projection, we actually increased our tax liability. Now we owe $1,000, okay? $1,100. When your match goes into Roth, you're owing more tax on that, okay? So you owe $1,100 from the match, but you're still, your returns are still amazing, and this is all growing tax-free now. And you can see by putting all that in Roth, you even increased your final net worth a little more, okay? So if we look at the projection, set projection 2, you get $3,200 more of doing Roth versus traditional in this case, okay? Not a big difference, especially when we're talking 8.4 million. So not a huge concern. What is more of a concern for this couple right now is that $62,000 tax bill this year. They're like, that's a lot of money. I don't want to pay that right now. So they're looking for ways to decrease it. Defer it till later because they'd rather, when they're 80 and not as young, they're like, oh, maybe we'll pay a little more tax then, okay? The other thing that people need to consider is how charitable they are. And we're going to hit these strategies later on, but it's nice to have a healthy balance in tax deferred. If you're giving like this couple is giving at least 12% to charity every year for their whole retirement, there's so many strategies that are going to increase their net worth substantially by using these charitable strategies. The other thing they can do is at end of life, this couple are looking at potentially just giving their full tax deferred balance to charity. Because they'll still have $7 million they could potentially give to heirs or whatever they want to do. By giving that 1.4 to charity, they save another 400 grand in tax at the end of their life because they're not taxed on it. Okay, those are all things you want to consider in this traditional versus Roth decision. But long story short, whether you're putting in Roth traditional, the ROI on the 401k match is massive. The last comparison I want to show you really quick, this last ability that I've just built into the tool that I'm super pumped about is when we're doing these comparisons, I've always wanted to know, like, what does it look like? Why is it different? This comparison tab does that. And what it does is it takes your whole life, year by year, and you compare each year in a strategy. So you can see, you just select, you can select any of your scenarios. We're going to do projection 1, which is traditional versus Roth. Doing traditional, and projection 2 was Roth. Those two we put in. And you can see projection 2 comes out better. So you're like, oh, that's the better one. I'm taking that. Well, hit compare scenarios. This takes a while because, yeah, we're comparing every year. And when I say a while, it's like 15 seconds. But when it spits it out, it's going to show us year by year the difference for their whole life. Okay, starting year one, they're better off traditional because they're saving tax. They're not paying that extra $5,000, etc. Okay, and that difference increases. We're just using final net worth, but you can look at any of the variables in that the future planning tab to see what the difference is and why. So we're better off by traditional, and each year it's growing more and more because that balance is just bigger because you have more to invest. Okay, and we're talking only a couple years that they started this, so if you have more time before retirement, there's more analysis to do there. But the difference gets up to 13 grand at 74, and then it starts going down because RMDs kick in. So now they're paying more tax, and it's not very much more, but they're paying more tax on those RMDs, so the net worth is slowly dropping. They're still 8 grand better off at 89. Then the break even happens, and year after death, because of the larger balance that's paid on the tax deferred money. It doesn't break even if they decide to give that to charity. Then there's never a break even in this case. Okay, that is kind of how that 401k match works, and the power of comparison that we're looking at here. This stuff is just so fun for me to be able to dive in and show you these things. And that's the first strategy that this couple applied. Get that 401k match. They decided to go traditional, so they went with projection 1, but others may go projection 2. Just depends on you. Okay, this analysis we're doing, that was one strategy. I'm going to go through 20 different things with this couple. There, we did 2 projections there. If you want to be one of those early adopters, sign up. Okay, because I want to do 20 plans to just dial this thing in and make it do some awesome plans for people. So hit that link if you want to do that. If you haven't gotten the free version, go get that first and go play with it. All the capabilities I was going through, you don't have all of those, but you'll have a lot. If you found this helpful, or if you think this could benefit others, please give it a like. That helps. Subscribing also helps, and then share it. Please share it with others so we can help as many people as possible just feel more comfortable financially. Okay, sometimes it's a black box, and we want to open it up for people to see what in the world's going on behind the scenes. So thanks, guys, and we'll see you in the next one. The next one, I'm going to hit HSAs, and you think this was cool. HSAs are my favorite tax savings account. It is going to be amazing. So we'll see you in the next one.